AITA for exposing my wife's affair after learning she secretly prevented us from having a child. I, a 32-year-old man, and Brianna, a 29-year-old woman, had been married for 4 years. From day one, I made it clear that I wanted kids. Not right away, but eventually. It is one of those conversations you have during the engagement to make sure you are aligned on the important things. Brianna said she wanted them too. 2, maybe 3. She would talk about names, about how she would decorate a nursery. I remember her showing me ideas on Pinterest. The first year of marriage, I mentioned it. She said, "Let's wait until we're more established." That seemed fair. The second year, same conversation, same response, but with more details about wanting to advance in her career first. The third year, she said her body was not ready and she did not want to ruin it before she turned 30. I backed off because I am not some caveman who does not understand bodily autonomy. But in the fourth year, something changed. We were having dinner at home, and I brought it up again, probably sounding more desperate than I intended. "Brianna, I'm 32 now. You're about to turn 30. If we want multiple kids, we should start thinking about it seriously." She was quiet, pushing food around on her plate. Then she looked up and said, "You're right. Let's start. Let's try this year." I'm not going to lie, I was thrilled. It was what I had been waiting for. That night we talked about logistics. She said she would stop taking her birth control when her current pack ran out, that we would track her cycle and do everything right. I went to sleep that night feeling like my life was finally moving forward. That was in February. By June, nothing had happened. Brianna said it took time, that we just had to be patient. I suggested maybe we should both get checked out to make sure everything was okay. She immediately shot that down, saying she did not want to medicalize the process, that it would happen naturally. July came and went. I started to notice she was odd about intimacy. She was not avoiding it completely, but she was only interested at random times that definitely did not line up with any fertile window I had researched. When I tried to talk about tracking her cycle, she got defensive. She said I was making it too clinical, too stressful. A month later, I found it, and it was not even because I was snooping. That year, we switched to a new health insurance plan through my company. Better coverage, lower premiums, the whole deal. I am the type who actually reads the explanation of benefit statements when they come in, partly because I work in logistics and details matter. Our statements came through an online portal, and I had set up both our accounts under a single login to keep everything organized. I was reviewing our medical expenses for tax purposes, going over the claims for the last 6 months. Then I saw it. Monthly prescriptions, the same drug code, the same pharmacy, like clockwork every 28 days. I did not recognize the drug code, so I did what anyone would do and Googled it. Birth control pills, the same brand she had supposedly stopped taking in February. I just sat at my desk staring at the screen, going through month by month. February, March, April, May, June, July, August. 7 months of refills, 7 months of her standing in our bathroom every morning, supposedly taking a vitamin while I got ready for work. 7 months of me lying in bed at night thinking about baby names, about teaching a child to ride a bike, about becoming a father. 7 months of her looking me in the eye every day while actively sabotaging the one thing I had made clear was most important to me. My hands were shaking. I wanted to storm out and confront her right then, but something stopped me. This was too calculated, too deliberate. Something else was going on. You do not maintain a lie that complex just because you changed your mind about having kids. You do it because you are waiting for something or someone. The thing about working in logistics is you learn to think in systems. You do not just see a problem, you see the entire chain that created it. And looking at those birth control refills, I knew this was not just about avoiding a pregnancy. People do not lie that systematically, that deliberately, unless they are hiding something bigger. She was not just preventing a pregnancy, she was buying time. The question was, time for what? I did not say anything that night or the next day. I watched her as if I were seeing her for the first time. She had been distant lately, not cold exactly, but distracted, always on her phone, tilting the screen away when I walked by. She had started going to more work events in the evenings. Her appearance had changed too. New clothes, more expensive makeup, a gym membership she was actually using. At the time, I thought she was just taking better care of herself. Now it looked like she was taking care of herself for someone else. I started paying attention to her patterns. She had a habit of checking her phone first thing in the morning and right before bed. That was not unusual these days, but the way she would smile at certain texts, that was new. The way she would sometimes type out rapid-fire replies, then delete them and retype, as if carefully measuring her words. The real tell was in how she started dressing for work. Before, she would throw on whatever was comfortable for the office. Now, she was coordinating outfits, spending more time on her hair. She bought expensive perfume and only wore it on days she claimed to have important meetings. The funny thing was, when I would casually ask about those meetings later, she could never quite get the details straight. Client names would change, project details would get fuzzy. Classic signs of someone maintaining a cover story without a good enough memory to keep it consistent. Still, I needed proof, not just suspicion. If I was going to blow up my marriage, I had to know exactly what I was dealing with. The answer came from a place I did not expect. I was at a coffee shop near my office getting an afternoon coffee when someone tapped me on the shoulder. I turned around and saw Jenna, one of Brianna's co-workers. I had met her a few times at company events. She was nice, though she always seemed a little nervous. "Hi," she said. "Can we talk for a minute?" We sat at a corner table. Jenna looked uncomfortable. She kept glancing at the door as if she was afraid someone would see her. "Look, I do not know if I should be telling you this," she started, "but I would want to know if I were in your shoes." My stomach sank. Brianna has been spending a lot of time with Spencer. He is one of the senior project managers at the company. They have been, well, leaving events together, going for drinks after work. I saw them in his car last week, and they were not exactly being professional. Spencer. The name hit me like a ton of bricks. Brianna had mentioned him before, usually in the context of work frustrations or project issues. Never anything that raised a red flag. "How long?" I asked. Jenna hesitated. The first time I really noticed something was maybe around April, but it could have been going on longer. "I am so sorry." April. Right when Brianna started with the expensive makeup and new clothes. Right when she got defensive about tracking her cycle. The timeline started clicking into place like a logistics manifest that finally makes sense after you find the missing shipping data. I thanked Jenna and left the coffee shop. I sat in my car for 20 minutes, just breathing. Here is the thing about me. I do not explode. I do not yell. I do not throw things. I do not make scenes. When I get truly pushed, I get cold. I start thinking in systems and processes, like I am solving a logistics problem. And that is exactly what I did. Brianna wanted to play a game, but she did not know who she was playing against. I had spent years optimizing supply chains, identifying inefficiencies, and planning for contingencies. She was an event coordinator who thought she was being clever. I was a logistics manager who knew how to dismantle systems from the inside. The first step was to confirm everything Jenna had told me. I needed it documented, time-stamped, and irrefutable. So I did what any reasonable person in this day and age would do. I checked our phone records. We were on a family plan, both phones under my name because I got a corporate discount through my job. It took me about 15 minutes to log into the account and pull up the call and text logs. I could not see the content, but I could see who she was communicating with and when. And there it was. One number that appeared constantly, multiple texts a day, calls that ranged from 5 minutes to over an hour. And the timing said it all. First thing in the morning before I was awake, during her lunch breaks, late at night after I had gone to sleep, sometimes at 3 in the morning. I cross-referenced that number with some basic online tools. Spencer Lang, senior project manager at the same company where Brianna worked. Married, 2 kids, according to his Facebook profile, which was mostly locked down but had just enough public info to confirm his identity. But I did not stop there. I created a new cloud storage account, completely separate from anything Brianna had access to. I started screenshotting everything. Phone logs, health insurance statements showing the birth control refills, Jenna's contact information as a witness. I was building a digital paper trail that would stand up in any divorce proceeding. Then I did something that felt dirty, but necessary. I enabled location tracking on our shared tablet. Brianna used it mostly for Pinterest and planning work events, and it was logged into her Google account. I turned on the location history, which was technically already on, but no one ever checked it. She had been taking it to work with her every day lately, claiming she liked to use it for presentations. For the next 2 weeks, that tablet told me everything. It was at Spencer's office building during work hours, which was normal. But then it would show up at hotels, not always the same one, different hotels all over the city. always for 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the week, mostly around lunchtime, but sometimes in the early afternoon before she would come home and tell me she had gotten stuck in traffic or had a last-minute client meeting. The most damning proof came on a Thursday afternoon when Brianna told me she had an all-day off-site planning session. Her tablet spent 4 hours at a boutique hotel near the airport. Then it moved to a Target, where she apparently bought something, and then came straight home. She walked in the door at 6 in the evening with a Target bag containing laundry detergent and told me all about how exhausting the planning session was, how difficult the client was, how she barely had time to eat. I just nodded and asked if she wanted me to order dinner. I started keeping a journal, nothing fancy, just a basic document on my work laptop that Brianna never touched. Every lie she told, I wrote it down with the corresponding piece of evidence that contradicted it. Every time she said she was one place and the location data showed another, it was logged. Every time Spencer's number popped up on the phone records, I noted it. By the time I had everything I needed, the journal was 15 pages long. But before I made a single move, I needed to understand the full scope. Who else knew? Was this common knowledge at her office? And most importantly, how deep was Spencer's involvement? That is when I decided to talk to Spencer's wife. Finding Catherine Lang was not hard. Spencer had her tagged in old photos on Facebook, and from there I found her profile. She worked as a pediatric nurse at a local hospital. From what I could tell, she seemed like a good person. 2 kids under 10, family photos that looked genuinely happy, or at least they had been before all this started. I spent a full day debating whether to contact her. On one hand, blowing up her life felt cruel. On the other, she deserved to know her husband was having an affair, just like I deserved to know about Brianna. I sent her a message on Facebook. I kept it simple. We do not know each other, but I think we need to talk about our spouses. I have information you should see. She replied in less than an hour. We agreed to meet at a coffee shop halfway between our homes. Neutral ground. Catherine showed up looking exactly like what she was, an exhausted mother trying to hold everything together. The stress was already on her face before we even started talking. I did not waste time with small talk. I showed her the phone records, the location data, the timeline of everything I had documented. I watched her expression go from confused to devastated to absolutely furious in the span of about 5 minutes. That bastard, she finally said. We talked for over an hour. It turned out Catherine already suspected something was wrong, but she had no proof. Spencer had been distant, working late more often, protective of his phone. Classic behavior. She had confronted him once, and he had made her feel crazy for even suggesting it. Pure gaslighting. Now she had proof, and she was livid. What are you going to do? She asked me. I told her my plan, all of it. She listened in silence, and when I was done, she just nodded. I am in, she said. And just like that, I had an ally. The good thing about having someone on the inside of Spencer's life was that Catherine knew things I could never have found out on my own. She knew his schedule, his habits, his weaknesses, and she was more than willing to help me burn his life to the ground. We coordinated the plan carefully. The goal was not just to expose the inappropriate relationship. It was to make sure both Brianna and Spencer faced maximum consequences. Catherine was going for a divorce and full custody. I was going for a clean break with Brianna getting absolutely nothing. But first, we needed everything documented in an unquestionable way. Catherine installed monitoring software on the family computer that Spencer used. It was legal, since it was her computer too. That gave us access to his emails and messages. It turned out Spencer was incredibly sloppy. He had saved emails of hotel reservations, explicit messages with Brianna talking about their future together, even a draft of a resignation letter from Brianna to her company that she was apparently planning to send once Spencer left his wife. That last part was the ultimate blow. Brianna was not just involved with him. She was planning her exit strategy. She was going to quit her job, presumably to avoid the awkwardness of still working with Spencer after the fallout, and they would start fresh somewhere else. They probably had some fantasy of running off together while I was left at home wondering what went wrong. I made copies of everything and saved them in multiple places, the cloud, an external hard drive. I even emailed them to my work account as an extra backup. Then came the confrontation. I planned it for a Friday night. Brianna had told me she would be late because of a work dinner. According to the location data, she was actually at Spencer's house. Catherine had taken the kids to her parents for the weekend, creating the perfect opportunity for Spencer and Brianna to have the house to themselves. Except Catherine and I were about to crash their party. I drove to Spencer's address at 8 in the evening. Catherine was waiting for me outside. We had agreed she would go in first, since it was technically her house, and I would follow. Walking up to that front door, I felt nothing but a cold clarity. No anger, no sadness, just a calculated calm. This was the moment everything changed, and I was ready. Catherine used her key and walked in. I was right behind her. Brianna and Spencer were on the couch, watching a movie. They both froze when they saw us. The look on Brianna's face was priceless. Pure panic mixed with the realization that everything had just imploded. Spencer jumped up and started sputtering that it was not what it looked like. Classic. Catherine did not even let him finish. She just held up her phone, showing screenshots of all his messages with Brianna. "Oh, really?" she said. "Is that so?" Brianna looked at me. I could see her trying to figure out what to say, how to spin this, but there was nothing to say. She had been caught, completely and totally. I stayed silent, letting the quiet do the work. I watched her crumble, trying to come up with something, anything, to make this okay. "Finally," she said, "can we talk about this at home?" "There is no home anymore," I replied. Then she tried to cry. She started saying she was sorry, that it was a mistake, that she did not mean for it to happen. All the typical lines. Spencer was already backing away from her, as if he could distance himself from the situation. Catherine was already on the phone with her lawyer. She had planned this part carefully, having someone on standby to file for divorce immediately. I pulled out my phone and then showed Brianna all the documentation I had been gathering. The location data, the phone records, the birth control prescriptions, everything. "I know everything," I said. "And now we are going to talk about how this ends." Brianna tried to play the victim at first. She said she had been unhappy, that I had pressured her about kids, that she needed space. It was all nonsense, and we both knew it. I laid out the terms. Immediate divorce. She would sign an admission of infidelity as part of the proceedings, which in our state meant she would get nothing in the settlement. She would also acknowledge the deception about the birth control, something the lawyer I had already consulted said would play heavily in our favor in court. Spencer was in a full-blown panic now. He started pleading with Catherine not to take this information to his company. He knew exactly what would happen if Human Resources found out he had been in a relationship with a subordinate. The company policy was clear about relationships between different management levels, and he had violated it spectacularly. Catherine looked at him with absolute contempt. "You should have thought of that before you decided to get into this." Brianna turned to Spencer, probably looking for some kind of support or backup. He would not even look at her. The fantasy was collapsing in real time. That is when Brianna said it. "Are you really going to destroy my life over this?" The audacity of that question. As if she had not been systematically lying to me for months, giving me false hope while she was involved with someone else. "You destroyed your own life?" I said. "I am just making sure you face the consequences." That is when she turned nasty. She started screaming, saying I was never enough, that our marriage was boring, that she deserved better. Spencer was trying to get her to shut up, but she was on a roll. Everything she had probably been thinking for months started pouring out. "I would rather be dead than carry your genes," she spat at me. "You are nothing. You have never been anything." That was it. The mask was completely off. That was what she really thought of me. Catherine looked at me with something like pity. She got it. She knew exactly what that moment felt like. I just nodded. "Okay." Then, I gathered my things and left. I heard Brianna screaming after me, but I did not turn back. There was nothing left to say. The woman I had married did not exist. Maybe she never had. Maybe I had been in love with a performance the whole time, a carefully constructed version of Brianna that she maintained just long enough to trap me. And as soon as she found something that excited her more, I became the guy who would just be at home every night while she decided what she really wanted. Well, she had made her decision. And so had I. On the drive home, I sent an email to the head of human resources at Brianna's company. I attached all the documentation about her affair with Spencer, including the explicit messages and the fact that Spencer was in a senior management position. I copied the CEO for good measure. Then I sent a similar package to Spencer's divorce lawyer, courtesy of Catherine. The nuclear option was not just engaged, it was already detonating. By Monday morning, both Brianna and Spencer were called into separate meetings with human resources. By Monday afternoon, Spencer was being escorted out of the building, fired for violating employee relationship policies and abuse of authority. Brianna was given the option to resign immediately or be fired. She chose to resign, probably hoping it would look better on her record. It did not matter. The corporate world in our city is not that big, and word travels fast. Within a week, the entire industry knew what had happened. Two married co-workers, one in a position of power, caught in an affair that ended with both of them losing their jobs. Spencer's comfortable, stable life evaporated in less than a month. And Brianna, she was sinking. Getting terminated for policy violations is a black mark in the corporate world. It shows up on background checks. She could not even get interviews for positions similar to what she had had. Every application she sent was either immediately rejected or she would get to the interview and then mysteriously never hear back. The funny thing about the corporate world is that it runs on reputation. Brianna had spent years building hers, networking at events, establishing herself as someone reliable and professional. And I destroyed all of it with a single, strategic move. Every reference she counted on was now worthless. Every contact she had made already knew what happened. Nobody wanted to touch her with a 10-foot pole because hiring her meant risking their own reputation. I know all this because Jenna kept me in the loop. She said the office went completely insane when the news broke. The people who already suspected felt vindicated. The ones who had no idea were in shock. But everyone agreed on one thing. Brianna had made a massive mistake, and there was no coming back from it. Her parents supported her at first, but that changed when they found out the real reason everything fell apart. Her father actually called me to apologize. He said he had raised her better than that he was ashamed of what she had done. Her mother was less harsh, but just as disappointed. They let her stay with them, but it was clear they were not happy about the situation. Brianna started contacting Spencer constantly. He did not respond. Eventually, his number was disconnected. The reality began to set in. Spencer had never intended to leave his wife for her. He was just having fun, enjoying the ego boost of a younger woman's attention. But when it all blew up, he chose his kids and tried to salvage what he could of his marriage. It did not work. Catherine divorced him anyway, but she made it clear that Brianna was never part of his future plans. Spencer's divorce cost him everything. Catherine's lawyer tore him apart. She got the house, primary custody, and child support that practically guaranteed he would struggle financially for years. He had to move into a crappy apartment. At first, he could only see his kids every other weekend, and it was supervised because Catherine argued that he had shown poor judgment. His career took a hit too. Yes, he got another job, but at a lower title and salary. Nobody wants to hire a senior manager who was fired for being in an inappropriate relationship with a subordinate. Brianna had torched her marriage, her career, and her reputation for a man who dropped her the second things got complicated. My divorce was finalized in November. The judge's ruling was brutal due to the documented infidelity and the fact that Brianna had been deceptive about the birth control, which the judge noted as a fundamental breach of marital trust regarding family planning. She got nothing. Not a single dollar of alimony or division of assets acquired during the marriage. She walked away with exactly what she brought into it. Some furniture, her car with 2 years of payments still left, and her personal belongings. I got everything else. The condo became fully mine. Our savings were all mine. Even the wedding gifts, since my family had contributed the majority of them. I started rebuilding immediately. I threw myself into work, and it actually paid off. My boss commented that I had been more focused lately. Turns out when you are not spending mental energy wondering why your wife will not have kids with you, you have a lot more bandwidth for actual productivity. I got a promotion in December with a 15% raise. In January, I moved into a better place, a small house with a yard. I started going to the gym regularly. I lost 20 pounds and felt better than I had in years. Meanwhile, Brianna's life was still spiraling. She eventually got a job as a sales associate at a department store. A massive step down from an event coordinator, but it barely paid the bills. She had to give up her car because she could not afford the payments. She started taking the bus. She moved out of her parents' house and into a tiny studio in a rough part of town because it was all she could afford. Her social life imploded too. The mutual friends from our marriage took sides, and most of them sided with me when they learned what she had done. Her work friends from her old company wanted nothing to do with her because the scandal had embarrassed the entire department. She was effectively blacklisted in the local corporate scene. I heard all of this through various channels. Jenna would update me every once in a while, mostly because she felt bad for not speaking up sooner. A friend of mine saw Brianna at the grocery store looking worn down, avoiding eye contact with everyone. The truth is, I did not feel bad for her at all. Some might think that makes me cold, but here is the reality. Brianna made calculated choices. She chose to lie for months about birth control. She chose to have an affair with a married coworker. She chose to build a whole fantasy future while stringing me along with false hope. Those were deliberate actions, and deliberate actions have consequences. I just made sure those consequences actually materialized instead of letting her talk her way out of it like she probably had her whole life. January passed, then February, about 6 months after this whole nightmare started when I found those prescriptions. That is when she showed up at my new house. It was a Saturday afternoon. I was in the garage organizing tools when I heard a car door shut. I looked up and saw her standing at the end of my driveway. She looked awful. Hair limp, face puffy, wearing clothes that had clearly seen better days. I walked out to meet her. "What are you doing here, Brianna?" She launched into this whole speech about making mistakes, being stupid and selfish, about how she had thrown something good away. And then came the kicker. She wanted to talk about us, about trying again. I almost laughed. Are you kidding me? She was not. She started talking about how people make mistakes, how 4 years had to mean something. I just stood there watching her put on this little performance. She had probably rehearsed it in the car. "You do not want to fix anything," I told her. "You want me to rescue you." That hit home. I could see it on her face. So I laid it all out for her, that she was only there because her life had fallen apart. Spencer had abandoned her. She had lost her job. She was broke, alone, desperate, and standing in my driveway, pretending to have had some grand revelation when really she just needed someone to fix the mess she had made. She tried the typical excuse. I was angry. I did not mean it, about the jeans comment. She started crying. Total waterworks, saying she had nothing. Parents who were ashamed, no friends, no career, all alone, begging me to take her back. I looked at her there, completely broken, asking me to save her from her own choices. A year ago, I might have felt something. Pity, some residual attachment. But in that moment, I felt absolutely nothing. No, just that one word. She could not even process it at first. She tried the "but I love you" argument. I cut her off immediately. I told her she had never loved me. She just loved what I provided. Stability, reliability, a safety net. The second she thought she found something better, she was gone. Now the ship she had jumped to had sunk, and she wanted back on mine. She reached out to touch my arm. I stepped back. "It is not happening." More pleading. Therapy, whatever I wanted, just one more chance. I made it clear where things stood. I had spent months rebuilding my life. New house, promotion, in the best shape of my life, actually happy. And she wanted me to throw all that away to get back with someone who thought I was nothing, someone who pretended to want my kids while in a relationship with another man, someone who looked me in the eye every morning while living a complete lie. Not a chance. I am not your consolation prize, Brianna. I am not your plan B. I turned to go back into the house. That is when she really lost it, screaming that I could not just walk away, that I owed her something. I stopped and looked back. "I do not owe you anything. You made your bed. Now lie in it." She just stood there sobbing, apologizing over and over. I told her exactly what she was sorry for, getting caught, that it did not work out with Spencer, that she lost everything, but not for what she actually did to me. She was only sorry she was facing the consequences. I went back into my garage and closed the door. I heard her car start a few minutes later. I watched her drive away through the window. And that was it. I have not heard from her since. I changed my number as a precaution. I blocked her on every platform. I made it clear to mutual acquaintances that I do not want any updates on her life. The last I heard through the grapevine, she is still working retail and still living in that studio. Spencer's divorce was finalized, and apparently, he is dating someone new. Definitely not Brianna. Catherine is thriving. She actually got remarried, and her kids are doing well. And I am good. Really good. I started seeing someone a few months ago. A good woman. She works in education, and she genuinely wants kids someday. We are taking it slow, but it feels right, real, honest. Sometimes I think about that last conversation with Brianna, about her standing in my driveway, pleading for another chance. Part of me wonders if I was too harsh. Then I remember her telling me she would rather be dead than carry my genes. I remember her calling me nothing. I remember finding out she had lied to me for months, maybe longer, about something as fundamental as wanting to start a family. And then I realized I was not nearly harsh enough. She wanted to go nuclear. She got it. The complete and total annihilation of the life she thought she could build on my stability while treating me like an afterthought. And when her little fantasy world came crashing down, she came crawling back, expecting me to pick up the pieces. Brianna made her choices. She chose Spencer. She chose the lies. She chose herself over our marriage. And when those choices led to consequences, she wanted me to save her from them. I chose myself instead. And I would make that choice again and again. That is going nuclear. Comment. Thank you for being here for this intense journey. What I hope you take away is the immense power in choosing your own peace and self-worth. Setting boundaries is not about punishing others. It is about protecting your own heart. We are all responsible for the energy we allow into our lives. True healing begins when we stop waiting for an apology and start building a future we deserve. Remember to be kind to yourself, especially when you are walking away from something that broke your trust. Your future is not defined by the actions of others, but by your own response to them. Trusting again is possible when you learn to trust yourself first. The goal is not a life without problems, but the strength to choose peace amidst them. Take care of yourselves and one another. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.